Holy cow, folks. That was a wild one and a close game to boot. Greetings, everyone. I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad that you are here. Today's jank is an historic, and that's right, we are trying to do some, like, affinity-related shenanigans. There's a really, really sweet combo here that some of you are probably aware of, but many of you maybe not, and we're trying to take advantage of it today, and that is Animation Module. It says, whenever one or more counters are put on a permanent you control, you may pay a colorless. If you do, create a 1/1 servo artifact creature token. Then you can pay 3, tap it, choose a counter or on a permanent or player, give that permanent or player another counter, so it kind of proliferates, but only for just one target, and stuff like that. But the main thing we're trying to do is, whenever we get counters, we get a 1/1 servo for paying a mana. So if we put Metallic Mimic out on servo ahead of time, and then something gets a counter, anything at all gets a counter, we can pay a colorless mana and make a servo, which will get a counter because of Metallic Mimic, which will allow us to pay a colorless, which will get a counter, which will allow us to pay a colorless, which will get a counter, which will allow us to pay a colorless, which will get a counter, right? And we'll end up with as many 1/1s that are now 2/2s as we have mana on the board. So if we have 4 or 5 mana, we can make 4 or 5 2/2s basically every turn. So we're trying to do our best to trigger that thing. How are we doing that? Well, first and foremost, we have the cards Swarm Shambler and Steel Overseer. These cards put counters on themselves. Steel Overseer puts counters on each artifact, including itself, right? We're not a dedicated artifact deck, so to speak, but it is good enough all on its own just because it puts counters on itself for no activation costs. So it can start this chain of going ahead of time. And then we have the Vastwood Fortifications to pad our lands. We're actually on 20 lands. But with the 4 Vastwood Fortifications, it shouldn't be too big of a deal. And then we have Stonecoil Serpents that come in just one time, but they do trigger things one time. And of course, being protection from multicolored is relevant. Being a gigantic stinking creature, that is very relevant, right? And things like that. So I think that's fine. We also have additional ways of putting counters on with Inscription of Abundance, as well as fighting at instant speed. And then Great Henge, because if we get some very, very large creatures, it coming down, giving us lots more mana and card draw, very good. Oviya, just to create more servos. And then Branching Evolution is another key card here. Whenever one or more counters we put on a creature you control, twice that many 1/1 counters are put on instead. So if we go to play a Stonecoil Serpent on 2, it comes down as a 4. If we go to add a counter here or add a counter here, they're, 2 counters each, right? Notably, it does say on a creature you control. So Crawling Barrens says put counters on a land. Then you may have Crawling Barrens become a creature. So the Branching Evolution doesn't actually double up the Crawling Barrens counters. But that's okay. We're not... that is definitely just fine. The fact that we have... Now, okay, it is notable. If you activate Crawling Barrens more than once in a turn, once it's already a creature and then gets more counters, then those ones will be doubled. But again, we have just plenty of counter synergies and stuff. Obviously the Ozolith. Part of me wants more of these because I think it's very, very strong here. I could see as many as 4 of them. I think we might want those. But we'll see. We're going to play the games. The other one here, Chief the Foundry, just a 3 of to hopefully play... If things aren't quite going right, I was hoping that maybe giving 1/1 to our various artifact creatures might make up for some of that. This one I'm kind of skeptical on. We'll see. We'll see, but I think it might be better served as something else. We'll play some games with it and find out, though. On that note, let's go play some games. All right, folks, here we are up against Robot. Good luck, Robot. And yeah, I think we're going to keep this. We have a bunch of our 1-mana 1/1 counter stuff here, which in general we would be pretty happy about. I was gonna say we just need to avoid having our Swarm Shambler killed, but in this case I assume Our opponent is going to take it, unless, of course, they have a removal spell already, in which case they'll take the animation module, and the Swarm Shambler is useless anyway. All right, well, you know, yeah, that's fine. Oh, folks, not good news. All right, acquisitions expert, no big deal. We didn't need the extra Ozolith anyway, so we will get rid of that. We are not disappointed by that at all. So we're gonna go ahead and put the counter on right now, just in case. Oh boy, interesting. Yeah, all right, let's do that. Our opponent appears to be playing some discard stuff. If they had an instant speed way of responding to our Swarm Shambler, right? We just wanted to make sure that the counters made it onto Swarm Shambler, you know? Nope, no blocks there. Oh boy, that's a good one, but I think this is much better. We're gonna go ahead and Branching Evolution. The counters will go onto our 1/1, but they get doubled, don't forget. So our 1/1, instead of becoming a 3/3, becomes a 5/5. We're gonna go ahead and swing in at our opponent's face, dropping them down to 13. Nihilach Scavenger coming down. That is not great news for us, as far as I'm concerned. All of those things are annoying. All right, so let's not give our opponent any clues, and we're just going to go ahead and attack. Opponent willing to trade off Nighthawk Scavenger. Unsurprising. Yep, counters go onto the Ozolith. Well, let's go ahead and get down a Chief of the Foundry and pass the turn. Chief of the Foundry, just a generally good lord for our artifact creatures, but oh no. All right, fine. All right. How about Chief of the Foundry become a 10/11 opponent? Yeah, not going to take that hit either. So the damage happens there. Of course, the counters go right back onto the Ozolith. We're going to go ahead and play our Crawling Barrens and pass the turn. Yeah, folks, this is, I wouldn't say we're in great shape here, but you know, we're battling, and that much is good. All right. Davriel, Rogue Shadow Mage. Our opponent taps out for. That much is definitely good. Oh boy, well. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and kill the Yarok Fenlurker because it's pumpable. Sure. Damage is dealt. Well, let's activate Crawling Barrens. Yes, have it become a creature. We're doing this pre-combat so that there's a place to put the Ozolith counters. And we're going to go ahead and swing in for, you guessed it, ladies and gentlemen, that's 20 damage. Holy crud, the Ozolith putting in work. Good game, robot. Good game. Man, the Ozolith Branching Evolution combo there definitely came through for us. Feels good, man. Feels good. All right, folks. Well, here we are. Yeah, I think we're going to keep this. The Ozolith, very, very powerful magic card. We do have a lot of supporting cards. We need to draw into some more creatures, I would think, for this to pay off. But, you know, we have enough in the deck. That shouldn't be asking too much. Sure enough, Steel Overseer coming off the top. Exactly the sort of thing we wanted. Raro McLeod. On Isolated Chapel, Grim Climb Pathway. So, unsure exactly. Oh, boy. Yeah, it appears as though our opponent is on some black-white life gain, which is terrifying. Not gonna lie. Indulging Patrician for our opponent. No blocks. You got it. We take 2 right down to the 18 life threshold. All right, so we're going to Branching Evolution in case they have removal. We are going to put the counters on just to make sure they go on. And then next turn, depending on what happens, we may be Inscriptioning to fight. We may be, you know, Great Henging. I'm not sure. We may be doing both, right? Oh boy. All right. So let's do this. Yeah. And fight onto here. Sure. And passing the turn. I wouldn't say we're thrilled about where we're at, folks, but getting the Great Henge down is a huge, huge advantage. Now, if our opponent's got a bunch of, like, enchantment-based removal, or possibly even, like, the 5-mana destroy all artifacts and enchantments card, things like that, like, there are definitely ways where this can go wrong. That said, things are going well, and we're not going to complain, for sure. All right, so let's start on Swarm Shambler, draw a card. Yep. Okay, so we do get a land. So we can kind of do it all. All right, so all of the things. Fight, gain life, get counters. Put 2 1/1 counters. Target a player. Target a creature, target their creature. Oh, darn it. I wanted to respond, but I didn't have full control on. That's all right. I think attacking for the 9 is probably better than putting counters on anyway. But I was going to tap just to make sure that our life total didn't suffer. Opponent drops to 14. Oh boy, and veto. Hi. All right. Sure. Indulgent Patrician going to come in for a damage, but then veto going to make us lose some life as well. All right. Chief of the Foundry. Make an appearance. Okay, and Vastwood Fortification. Interesting. All right. Get in with the team. And folks, it's looking awfully difficult for our opponent here. We assembled all of our synergy pieces, and the opponent's just like, okay, we'll take it. As it turns out, that is not going to work, and we have lethal. GG, Ronald McLeod. GG, it was an honor. Yeah, I guess we're going to keep this. I think we're going to be starting on the Swarm Shambler, trying to get it off Summoning Sickness. That way, we can start adding counters as soon as possible. I don't think we're going to be adding a counter next turn unless Robot does something interesting. But we are going to be Steel Overseering, I think, next turn. Oh, no. Thoughtseize on turn 1. Fair enough. Well, I think it would be odd for our opponent to take anything other than Animation Module. These are all creatures. I have to assume in black they have ways of handling creatures. This Animation Module stands to, yeah, create a ton of value over time. As it turns out, our opponent agrees with us and takes the Animation Module. We're going to go ahead and scoot in for 1. Opponent, fist full of cards, goes ahead and Thoughtseizes again. It's Chief of the Foundry this time. Drops to 15 for the trouble. Is there a land drop? Or did our opponent... Oh, okay, I was going to say, holy crud, that would be terrible for our opponent. Oh boy, Branching Evolution, you are a good one here. Holy crud, off the top. Feels very, very good indeed. We're going to go ahead and get in for 1, dropping our opponent out of 14. Of course, most of the work on our opponent's life total being done by themselves. They've lost their own 4 lives, and then Swarm Shambler come in for a little bit of help there, for sure. All right. Well, then let's just go ahead and wait, I guess. No, no attacks. These things are fine. Now, we don't have an Ozolith here, which we would really like. All right. We're going to get in, which we are obviously going to take. Grow the Steel Overseer. Grow the Swarm Shambler. Take the damage. Opponent gets to choose what sorts of things they want to do. All right, everybody discards a card, everybody sacrifices a creature. All right, so we're going to go ahead, put the counters onto Steel Overseer. And sacrifice Swarm Shambler. Yep. These things, not overly surprising, but very annoying. Folks, we do need a creature off the top. Ay. All right, well, we did not get one. So we're going to go ahead and get in for 7 with Steel Overseer. Opponent chooses to take it. Yep, sure enough. Down to 7 points of life, and we're going to pass the turn. Rankle, Master of Pranks. Likely going to get in, make a sacrifice a creature, at which point we will have to animate the Crawling Barrens to prevent ourselves from dying here. All right. Just Rankle getting in. Not going to be the Woe Strider as well. All right, as expected. Well, we're going to go ahead and animate. We will take the action, yes. And we can sacrifice Crawling Barrens. That is not a big deal. Yep. And Steel Overseer going to charge in again for 7 points of damage. Luris going to jump in front. Yep, these things are fine. Opponent gains life up to 10. We are going to Metallic Mimic on Servo again. Oh, shoot. There we go. And pass the turn. Our opponent on 10 life. Careful decisions need to be made this turn. Woe Strider does have sufficient cards in the bin to come back, but not sufficient mana. So if one of these is not an untapped black land, Woe Strider going to stay where it's at. Does Rankle come in? It does. All right, fair enough. We drop to 11. Everybody draws. And that's it. No sacrificing. There is a land. Looks like Woe Strider will make a return appearance after all. Yep. Sure. Indeed, Woe Strider headed this direction. 5-4 and a 0-1. The 0-1 can be tossed in front of Steel Overseer. Hey. All right, these things are actually great. Because all we have to do now is just take a turn off, and we're going to make some chump blockers, as well as sacrifice powder for Rankle. All right, Davriel, Rogue Shadow Mage. All right, folks, our life total is getting a little scary here. All right, time to pass. Opponent going to get in with Rankle, I assume. The whole team? Good gravy. Okay, no, yeah, just the Rankle. All right, no Rankle. Yes, Rankle. Yes, Rankle. Okay. All right. Opponent Deals 3 damage, we drop to 7. We're, of course, going to drop even lower with this Davriel trigger going on. What happens now? Everybody loses a life and draws a card. All right, we're going to drop to 4. Check that. All right. Sure, we have to discard our Steel Overseer we just drew. And Pelika Caverns enters the battlefield. All right. Rather than allow it to go to our turn, we're going to go ahead and Steel Overseer. Put counters on our creatures. Animation module going to give us the opportunity to make dudes, which we will do. Unfortunately, we can't make too many more dudes, right? All right, does this do it? I think so. It depends on if our opponent has removal or not, but... you know, what kind of interaction they have, but that's okay. We're going to go ahead and get in anyhow with the team. Woe Strider going to jump in front of the Steel Overseer. The 0-1 going to jump in front of Metallic Mimic. We have 9 points of damage coming in after that. Okay, Woe Strider sacrificing Rankle. The Scry goes top. Is that GG? It is GG. It is GG. Holy cow, folks. That was a wild one and a close game to boot. It was an honor, Robot. It was an honor. Thank you for the game. All right, folks. I mean, this is all right. We have a 4 land hand, but the fact that some of our Vastwood Fortifications means if we start drawing a bunch of lands, we have spells to cast. I think we are going to lead on one of them, though, and just pass. I'm a little uneasy about that because we do have a pretty low curve, all things considered. All right, yeah, we're going to go ahead and pass. Since our opponent didn't do anything, we are going to wait for our Branching Evolution before we try and get down the Stonecoil Serpent. Okay, the opponent goes with Godless Shrine tapped. All right, well, Branching Evolution, go, opponent. Sure. Well, next turn, I do believe we are going to make a 4/4 Stonecoil Serpent, which, of course, will be doubled. Yep. Up to an 8/8. Now, there's no doubt in my mind that our opponent's got removal here, right? That's not, you know. I don't think there's any doubts anywhere about that. Oh, boy. And Kaya's Ghost Form for our opponent. All right. So we're going to go ahead and get in. Opponent decides to just take it. I think that's fine. We're going to wait then. Because we can fight the Lurrus. But I'm not confident. Okay. All right. Yeah, we're going to do all the things then. Put 2 counters here. Target this player to gain the life. Fight this creature. Yeah. We're protection from multicolor, so, Lurrus just dies. Yeah. Now... okay, they do have the land for the Kaya's Ghost Form there. So we're going to go ahead, put 2 counters onto the Crawling Barrens, and go ahead and attack here. Oh boy, the opponent gambles and pays the ultimate price. That is GG, Riceland Mayor. GG. Well, folks, I'm not going to lie. That one was tenuous. I do think that things could have gone very, very differently if just a few cards had broke differently. I assume that our opponent was sitting on primarily enchantment-based removals, such as the Mire's Grasps and things like that. I'm sorry, here it is. Never went to the den, right? Mire's Grasp and things like that. So it really worked out well for us to wait on the Branching Evolution and then the Stonecoil Serpent, because the removal was basically dead. But if our opponent had some kind of, you know, target player sacrifices style effect or something like that, things could have really gotten out of hand. As it turns out, attacking with 6/6 tramples, or I'm sorry, 8/8 tramples, and then growing them up even farther than that, a good plan. Keep that in mind, folks. Keep that in mind. GG. All right, folks, and we are back. Man, oh man, I had a great time. This was a lot of fun to pilot. I really don't regret it at all. But there were, I think, it was at least 2, if not 3 games right in a row there where we were stuck on 2 lands. I think it's acceptable to keep 2 land hands in a deck with a curve that's this low. Because, you know, really, most of the deck functions down here, and the Stonecoil Serpents, while they do scale into the late game, you really don't mind casting them on 1 when you can be Steel Overseer and putting counters on, things like that, you know? That said, you know, if it hadn't been for those situations, we were in the games where we were stuck on mana, you know, that... If we just hadn't been stuck for so long, you know, things might have been different. So, you know, that's just magic, right? So, I don't know. I am tempted to say I think it overperformed my expectations, but then, you know, the record was supremely average, so maybe it performed exactly where I was expecting it to, and we just played magic, right? I don't know. You tell me, darn it. That said, I would say I expressed a little concern in the deck tech portion of the video about these Chiefs of Foundries, and boy, oh boy, did they underperform. They were so much worse than I had thought they would be that I'm actually a little embarrassed they made it in the original deck. There just weren't enough artifact creatures ever for these to be justified in the original inclusion. I came up with some ideas for some cards that we might replace them with. There was a whole bunch of the time where I just really wished we had the Ozolith. So at least 1 more, as many as 2 more Ozoliths might be better than the Chief of the Foundries, and I think that's kind of almost a certainty. If we cut these 3 and maybe something else, maybe like the one of Oviya, we could add the Growth Chamber Guardians. And Growth Chamber Guardians are a really good way of grinding out value. They, particularly once we get the Great Henge down, give us a repeated source of card advantage over and over and over, but also do add counters. So all of our 1/1 counter synergies could potentially benefit there, as well as just having the Branching Evolution, as well as being a lower CMC threat. So we can still operate on fewer lands, but giving us something to do with our mana if we are kind of flooding out, right? So these ones might be one of the sneakier inclusions, and if you're going to do it, you probably do want 4 of them, though. The other one I thought, maybe the Nessian Hornbeetle. A lot of the time we would end up with creatures that are large enough to be triggering Nessian Hornbeetle, and once it starts getting counters, if we're doubling up all those counters with Branching Evolution and things, very, very powerful. Notably, it triggers itself without having to tap, and it does it every turn. So I'm not sure if that's worth it or not, but definitely worth considering. Champion of Lambholt, very, very strong card, making our creatures unblockable. So with all the 1/1 counter synergies, I think it's quite possible this is just a good one, and it can be a 1 of, a 2 of, a 3 of. You don't have to have 4 of these by any means. They are not legendary, so that's very good. And then the last 2, Mechagodzilla. If we do go with like all 4 Ozolith, having the 3rd slot just be Mechagodzilla is probably good. It allows us to get some like lifelink, trample, flying type counters to go onto our Ozoliths. And it doesn't matter how many of those there are, right? The final one would be Vivien, possibly. I really can't justify all the mana problems we were having when we had 24 lands. I really don't understand it. And 24 lands should be just fine to cast Vivien Arkbow Ranger with some amount of regularity. So if we had, like, I don't know, 1 more Ozolith, 2 more Viviens. This gives us a little bit of control with the -3. Does throw around 1/1 counters to fit the plan, but also gives those creatures trample. So if we do end up making, you know, a larger like Steel Overseer, or we have several Metallic Mimics on the battlefield or something, giving them trample could be good. I don't know, folks. You let me know down in the comments below how you might want to improve it, because I am looking forward to playing this deck tonight. I did have a great time, but it needs a little help. So give me a hand. Give me a hand there, will you? That said, I do have a Twitch channel. That's what I was talking about. You know, I'm gonna be playing this deck on my Twitch channel tonight. So let me know. Let me know how you feel about it. Let me know what you might change. And then come on out and see us so you can watch me fumble through it on the stream. That said, you folks have a wonderful day, and I will catch you next time.